At Kroger Pharmacy, care is what's most convenient for you. Care is being here when you need us. We're open evenings and weekends. Care is helping you save more. Most insurance plans and discount cards are accepted at your local Kroger Pharmacy. Care is saving you time by managing your prescriptions online. You can request refills, check order status, and more. Care is convenience that works for everyone. Kroger Health, a world of care is in store. Services and availability vary by location. Age and other restrictions may apply. For coverage, consult your health insurance company. Visit the pharmacy or our site for details.
You're listening to the Health Courage Collective podcast, episode 93, Upgrade Your Health with Behavior Design, originally published October 20th, 2021. Welcome to the Health Courage Collective podcast, the show for women who are too busy to slog through hours of generalized, inapplicable, and often contradictory health information, but too smart to ignore that a few minutes of focused attention now can prevent years of suffering in the future. I'm your host, Christina Hackett, a pharmacist who doesn't want you to live on prescriptions, a certified coach specifically trained to maximize your potential, and a compulsive learner obsessed with preventative, cutting-edge, holistic, and integrative medicine. I'm on a mission to increase your physical and mental resilience so you can fearlessly look forward to your next 40-plus limitless years. Your time is now. Let's go. Hello, my friend, and welcome to another podcast episode. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you have had an awesome week so far. How was your Easter? I hope it was a good time spent with loved ones and that you had a chance to relax and enjoy. How has your acceptance of evidence-based medicine been this past week? Evidence is awesome to use to help inform our decisions, but we all need to be a little bit more aware of when the evidence we use to base our decisions on is real evidence versus fabricated or manipulated partial truths, or total lies in some cases. Today, we're going to talk about behavior design. 2 weeks ago, we talked about how you don't decide your future. You choose your habits, and they decide your future. And about how habits are the closest things we humans have to superpowers. Habits don't require thought, energy, or willpower. They're just on autopilot, but they still have that compounding effect. I'm sure you've heard that Albert Einstein said compounding interest is the eighth wonder of the world, and we can harness that power through little habits repeated over and over. A friend at my church read a little inspirational thought the other day that used the phrase relentless incrementalism. I hadn't heard that before, but I love it. It's used to progress toward what may seem like an impossible goal by just getting started and consistently, relentlessly, incessantly adding teeny tiny amounts of progress over and over. Relentless incrementalism. Love it. Behavior design is not about doing what society tells you you should do so that you can post on Instagram about how you drink 100 ounces of water, meditate for an hour, walk 10,000 steps, and still get your kids to school early every day. That's awesome if you do that, but behavior design is about actively and intentionally creating your future and only doing the highest leverage things that will get you what you really want. Not what someone else says you should want. Behavior design is things you start and things you stop, and things that sound lovely but aren't worth your effort right now because they're not the highest leverage element in the creation of your future. Because the result you want will be different than somebody else, your path should be too. You can be the designer of your world and not just the consumer of it. You can use habits to create success, earn more money, lose weight, reduce stress, and all of that is good, but I want you to think of habits less as a way of getting something and more as a way of becoming someone you're proud of, someone with an amazing life and even more amazing future, someone who very intentionally moves toward the person they ultimately want to become with relentless incrementalism. BJ Fogg is a professor at Stanford who founded the Behavior Design Lab at Stanford and does a lot of research about behavior design. Some of you may have read his book, Tiny Habits. It's really good. In the book, he condenses many years of research down to the formula B equals M plus A plus P. Your behavior, the B, is a result of your motivation plus ability plus prompt. B equals M A P. All behavior, good or bad, is a function of your motivation to do that behavior, in addition to your ability to do that behavior and what prompted it to be done. If you think of a graph with motivation on the y-axis, it can be either high or low, and ability on the x-axis, it can be either high or low, depending on how easy or hard something is to do. Then on the graph, there's something he calls the action line, which is the sweet spot for action. Where the prompt shows up on the graph relative to motivation and ability will determine whether action is taken or not. If we have low motivation and our ability is low, it's really hard, we're not going to take action. If we have high motivation and our ability is really high, it's really easy, we will take action. And everything in between. If something is pretty hard, but our motivation is high enough, we'll do it. If our motivation is only so-so, but the thing is super easy to do, we'll do it. The beauty of knowing this model is that we can run everything through it and use it to both start doing behaviors and stop doing behaviors. And even better than that, y'all know I'm a nerd who loves equations, but this is part of why. Once you understand this behavior equation, you can see any failures not as a moral problem or some kind of personal character flaw, but just as a design flaw, like a bug in a line of code, or cute pants, but the pockets are fake. What? We need pockets, designers. And just like some designer somewhere invented pockets on workout leggings, thank you, whoever you are, it's the best. As designers of our own behavior, we can creatively reinvent our design to achieve whatever we want. If you're having trouble changing your habits, the problem isn't you. It's not that you aren't strong enough to change, it's that you just have a design flaw in your system, and you can fix it by changing the motivation, ability, or prompt for your behavior. We can do that. I've mentioned before that I love Dave Asprey. He's the guy who invented the term biohacking. If you haven't heard of that, it's basically tricks you can use to take control of your own biology and optimize your body. We'll talk more about some biohacks that can help us live better, longer, and healthier in the future. It's sexy and fun to learn about some of the super amazing things that people do, like reprogramming their brain with neurofeedback, harvesting and relocating stem cells, ever so slightly bending their bones to increase their bone density, and working out for 6 minutes but achieving better exercise outcomes than if they had worked out for 90 minutes. As cool as all that stuff is, it's not as cool or effective or life-changing as operating on good habits. Remember, the sublime comes through the mundane, and compounding interest should be the eighth wonder of the world. So, as you think through what is going to decide your health future, hint, it's your habits, remember, what one thing comes to mind as the most important place for you to start? What is your highest leverage opportunity for change? Or if that's too hard, what do you feel ready to start tackling today? What one thing, not 100 things, not 5 things, what one thing, if you were to start doing or stop doing, would make a big difference in your future health? Maybe you know of something that would have benefits that would cascade out into multiple areas of your life. It doesn't need to be a big deal. In fact, it's probably better if it doesn't feel heavy or momentous, especially to start. Make sure it's something that you actually want to do, that it's your idea and not just something you've been told that you should do. Maybe it's more strength training, or less soda drinking, or healthy fat consumption, creating a logical supplement plan, avoiding having to take blood pressure medications, sleeping more, meditating, stretching. Whatever the thing is, think through how the optimal version of you would behave and what outcome that would produce 40 years from now. Now, what feels like step 1? That's where we're going to start. How can you design a world where it's easy to do what you actually want to do? What reimagining of your environment or routine can you do to make it so the actions that matter most are the easiest to take? Remember, behavior equals motivation plus ability plus prompt. James Clear has a very similar framework in his book, Atomic Habits. He says, make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. This is pretty much the same as making sure the prompt is above the action line in terms of motivation and ability. And remember, Bad habits are not different from good habits when it comes to their components. Behavior is behavior. It's always a result of motivation, ability, and prompt all coming together. When you want to install a new habit that you might forget to do, it's good to start by anchoring your prompt to another habit you already do reliably, like brushing your teeth, going to the bathroom, bringing in the mail, eating dinner, etc. When I wanted to install the habit of logging all my food, I decided that before I put the first morsel of food in my mouth for the day, I would pause and record what I was about to eat in the app I use, Chronometer. A lot of times I also knew what next several things I planned to eat that day, so I'd use the momentum to quickly type those things in too. This helped in a lot of ways, one of which was removing the barrier of time and effort of trying to remember and log every little thing I ate all day long at the end of the day or around dinner time. It's so much easier to stick to your plan when you get to dinner time knowing exactly what nutrients are on your plan, how many of them you've eaten so far, and what's left. And I was a lot less likely to skip logging my dinner after I had already done such a good job logging everything else up to that point. So, deliberately choose your prompts and anchor them to something reliable. Remember that prompts are the invisible drivers of our lives, and no behavior happens without a prompt to act. If you're trying to stop a certain behavior, think about what prompts you to do it, and whether you can make that prompt invisible, or change it to become the prompt for something positive instead. After you're prompted, you do the behavior you've decided is important to you to do. Remember the graph of motivation and ability? This is a hugely important point. You don't want to plan for the days when your motivation is at an all-time high. Yes, it's exciting to imagine yourself lifting heavy for 90 minutes till complete muscle exhaustion, never taking another sip of soda, having a perfectly orchestrated and precisely planned regimen of personalized supplements, always going to bed by 10 p.m., and meditating for 30 minutes every single day. But you don't design your behavior for the times your motivation is high. You design it for when it's at an all-time low. On your very worst days, what will you be able to do? 1 lunge? Leave 1 sip of soda left in your can when you throw it away. Take 1 fish oil pill once a day. Wash your face before 10 p.m. Or meditate for 1 peaceful breath. Your behavior should be laughably easy. If it sounds absurd, you're probably onto something. While bigger ideals look good on paper, only your actual actions count. Hey there, I wanted to quickly interrupt and let you know that it's so much less of a struggle to consistently dominate your health choices when the thoughts you think naturally nudge you toward what you're trying to achieve. If you're looking to more consistently rock your healthy behaviors, I have a completely free 18-minute mini course for smart women like you who know that sometimes a quick mind flip can go a long way. Click the link in the show notes or go to healthcourage.ck/page/mini for this free mini course on 6 thoughts people who consistently rock their health choices think, and start putting one of them to good use inside your head today. As Stephen Guise says in his book, Mini Habits, be the person with embarrassing goals and impressive results, instead of one of the many people with impressive goals and embarrassing results. Awesome, right? Embarrassing goals and impressive results. I love it. He says to let action precede motivation. Usually the most challenging part is getting started because we don't feel like it. So making the whole thing you need to do tiny puts your prompt over the action line and gets you started. Don't fall into the trap of saying you're going to do 1 lunge but feel like a failure if you don't do 25. If you do 1, that's a win. If you get started and genuinely want to do more, fine. But always count 1 as a win. Remember, if you haven't been successful yet, the problem isn't with you. It's just a design flaw. You can achieve great things by starting small and staying consistent. Make it crazy easy to win and do it every single day, whether you have a lot of willpower left in the tank or not. After our anchor prompts us and we do our super tiny behavior, comes the most important part of the behavior design model. Are you ready? Maybe you already know it. It's celebration. You might think it'd be the least important part, but you'd be wrong. BJ Fogg is the first researcher to bring this point to light. So let me tell you what he says about it in his book, Tiny Habits. It's a little long, but really good. What might surprise you is this. In English, we do not have a perfect word to describe the positive feeling we get from experiencing success. I've read piles of scientific literature on related topics, and I've done my own research in this area, and I'm convinced that we are lacking a good word. The closest label is authentic pride, but that's not an exact match. So, with the encouragement of 3 of the world's experts on human emotion, I decided to create a new word for this feeling of success. Ready? I call this feeling shine. You know this feeling already. You feel shine when you ace an exam. You feel shine when you give a great presentation and people clap at the end. You feel shine when you smell something delicious that you cooked for the first time. I believe my celebration technique is a breakthrough in habit formation. I hope you can see why. By skillfully celebrating, you create a feeling of shine, which in turn causes your brain to encode the new habit. If I could teach you tiny habits in person, I would start our training by focusing on celebrations. I would help you find celebrations that are natural and effective for you. We would practice them together and it would be a blast. I would train you in celebrations before teaching you about the Fogg behavior model or the power of simplicity or anchors or recipes for tiny habits. Celebrations would be first because it is the most important skill for creating habits. End quote. So, the most important skill for creating habits is a big deal, right? Have you ever thought of your ability to celebrate as a skill? It is, and it's an important one. I'd love it if you put it on your resume. Strong work ethic, excellent team player, proficient at Microsoft Excel, world-class celebrator. For real, if you haven't succeeded yet, it's not a personal flaw. It's just a design flaw, and the flaw might be not celebrating enough. We didn't know how much we needed those pockets in our exercise leggings till a designer created them that way. And you won't know how much you need celebration till you upgrade your behavior design and give it a try. How do you naturally celebrate? Do you know? If your team wins in overtime, what do you do? If your kid puts down his video game controller to listen to you, what do you do? If you make your shot into the garbage can from across the room, what do you do? Mine is easy. In all of those situations, I automatically throw both my hands in the air and yell, yeah! So that's my habit celebration too. What's yours? Take a minute to think through your most natural outburst of celebration and commit to using that when you complete your tiny behavior. I think having some additional options as add-ins is fine too. Remember my new favorite phrase? That's like me. That's a great one to add in here. Use it for all the good and hard things you do all day long. But why not do your personal celebration? Maybe it's a fist pump, yes, followed by a that's like me. Now, it's important that the celebration be right after the tiny behavior. Celebrate immediately and with genuine intensity. Woohoo! In the book Atomic Habits, James Clear says, with a fuller understanding of what causes our brain to repeat some behaviors and avoid others, let's update the cardinal rule of behavior change to what is immediately rewarded is repeated, what is immediately punished is avoided. That's important to keep in mind because when we're thinking about making a healthy lifestyle change, we oftentimes think the reward will be the result, better health. But now we know that unless the reward is immediate, it doesn't reinforce the behavior enough to want to repeat it. Another quote from BJ Fogg is, celebration will one day be ranked alongside mindfulness and gratitude as daily practices that contribute most to our overall happiness and well-being. If you learn just one thing from my entire book, I hope it's this. Celebrate your tiny successes. This one small shift in your life can have a massive impact, even when you feel there is no way up or out of your situation. Celebration can be your lifeline, end quote. There you go. So the very best way to create the healthy future you want is to celebrate your tiny wins today. People who feel like winners act like winners. You're a winner, my friend. You are. Behavior design is about programming our brain with the correct code to install habits so they can run on autopilot and create our desired life with no effort required. The basal ganglia in your brain is a very old brain structure, evolutionarily speaking, that's really powerful, and it has a basic or binary language. So my optimized coach likes to talk about programming your AI, which he calls your ancient intelligence. Get it? Your basal ganglia. With the binary code it understands, which is the language of repetition. Repeating a behavior enough times makes it sink below the level where conscious thought is required. We've all experienced this unconscious competence or autopilot before, right? I'm teaching my 15-year-old to drive right now, and when I drive him to school, I don't think about the drive at all. But when he drives us to school, we're both hyper aware of every detail because we haven't repeated that behavior enough times yet. That's part of why consistency is so important. It creates the unconscious habit that becomes our superpower. It also compounds our results, like we talked about 2 weeks ago. There's a great little video on YouTube. I encourage you to go watch it because seeing it is always better than just hearing about it. You can search domino chain reaction. It's 2.5 minutes long by Stephen Morris. I'll put a link in the show notes too. It's just filmed in some school hallway by a physics professor. He shows how one domino can knock over another domino that's 1.5 times larger. He starts with a tiny little 5mm domino that he has to use tweezers to set up. And there are only 13 dominoes that he knocks over, starting with the 5mm one that's too tiny to be able to place with just his fingers. The 13th domino is 1 meter tall and weighs 100 pounds. If he were able to have just 29 dominoes, which doesn't seem like very many, the last one would be as tall as the Empire State Building. The amplification of energy in his little series of 13 dominoes is about 2 billion. That's crazy, and an awesome physical example of how these things matter. You can set off a chain reaction starting with a super tiny amount of energy, too small to handle with your fingers, and eventually have enough power to knock over something as tall as the Empire State Building. Little things matter. Consistency matters. Starting tiny can get you giant results, I promise. Whatever you picked as the habit you'd like to start or stop, I hope you've gotten some ideas about how to make the prompt obvious or invisible, anchor the prompt to something you already consistently do, and make the behavior infinitesimally small so that you can let your action precede your motivation. If you do, small steps will turn into giant leaps forward. I think it would also be a good idea to have a plan for if you mess up. What if you forget or make an excuse not to do your new behavior? How will you treat yourself with kindness but still get back on track? If you miss one day, make it a very big priority to do it the following day. Look at your schedule and get precise about when and where you're going to do it. Set yourself up for success if you can, like setting out your walking shoes, charging your earbuds, putting a post-it note on your mirror, or powering off your phone. Whatever will help make sure you won't miss your tiny behavior that day. Envision obstacles and solve for those problems in advance, especially for whatever caused you to miss it this time. Remember the one named author, Tynan? He says, use your mistakes to focus. They draw attention to an area that needs more attention, so give it that attention. Challenge yourself to do better next time. Instead of saying, I'm so bad at this, say, I'm better than this. That's how you use mistakes to your advantage. Forgive yourself easily, but remember the lessons you learn from mistakes. You've earned them after all. End quote. I love it. Swap out I'm bad at this for I'm better than this. Use every challenge and setback as an opportunity to get a little better, and know that falling short is just part of the process. If there continue to be problems with accomplishing your behavior, you might need a redesign. You know how to do that now. Maybe you need to go tinier, make the prompt more obvious, or increase your motivation by recruiting other people to compete with you, hold you accountable, or check in and cheer you on. Okay, pop quiz. What did I leave out just now about the behavior design process? Here's a hint. It's the most important part. Celebration! Remember the feeling of shine? I really hope to impress upon you that you can change however you choose with these skills, but that people most effectively and most permanently change when they feel good. It seems like feeling guilty for eating fast food, feeling lazy for not going for a walk, feeling irresponsible for not getting enough vitamins, or feeling ashamed for not doing more to prevent having to start on blood pressure medication would drive us to do more to be the people we really want to be. But it doesn't. Really, we're much more likely to change when we're proud of feeding our friendly gut bacteria the vegetable fiber they love, feeling triumphant for walking around the block to stabilize our blood sugar response after a meal, feeling smart for figuring out how to give our body all the nutrients it needs to run optimally, or feeling empowered to influence our own biology without relying on prescription medications. Dr. Michelle Seeger is the world's leading authority on what motivates people to choose and maintain healthy behaviors, and her research shows that in order to boost your motivation to engage in a healthy behavior, you need to make an immediate positive connection between the healthy behavior and your life right now. Remember that what is immediately rewarded is repeated. For example, people are statistically much more likely to exercise when they say it makes them feel better that day than if they say it will help them feel better 10 years from now. That 10 years from now thing is still very much true, but it's not enough to motivate our behavior today. So celebrate and feel shine. Don't skip that step. It's the most important one. But also see what connections you can find between your healthy behavior and how you feel today. Do you sleep better? Do you get more done? Do you connect with your family more deeply? One thing that's guaranteed if you do your new behavior, whatever it is that it increases your self-efficacy. Intentionally repeating any positive behavior is training in believing in yourself. Your confidence goes up in accordance with how much you can trust yourself. In his book Mastery, George Leonard says, "Consistency of practice is the mark of the master." And it's easy to get on the path of mastery. The real challenge lies in staying on it. And the desire of most people today for quick, sure, and highly visible results is perhaps the deadliest enemy of mastery. So here's to becoming the masters of our behavior and our biology. You know all the steps of behavior design. Don't forget to celebrate and don't succumb to the deadliest enemy of mastery. You've got this.
Next week, we're going to talk about whether your probiotics are good enough. Until then, celebrate everything you do right and don't be normal.
Thank you so much for tuning into the Health Courage Collective podcast. I am truly honored that you have paid me the enormous compliment of your time and attention. I would be so grateful if you would share this podcast with someone you know and subscribe so you never miss an episode. This podcast is for entertainment and information purposes only. Statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Christina Hackett and producers, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse events by use of information contained herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.